Welcome to the First Dollar, where we interview fascinating founders about the first sales their startup ever made. We're so excited to be joined by Jeremy Boudin, VP of Growth at brand new, fairly new startup Textla. Really exciting in the SMS marketing space. Jeremy, welcome to the show, man.
It's great to be here, buddy. Always a pleasure talking with you.
You're at Textla now. Tell us a little bit about what they do, and then we'll dig into how do you actually launch something like this?
I'm VP growth at Textla. We're an SMS marketing platform, a business texting platform, if you will. And what we do is we offer a software that small businesses use. Think of any small business in America, a church, gym, restaurant, you name it, any business that would text its customers. Businesses use our platform to send out mass text to their customers, to two-way text their customers, to really drive conversations. Text is becoming a cornerstone of a lot of the marketing strategies, with email and phone and social kind of being deluged. Everyone's got a smartphone these days. So it's a great place to reach them.
So, if we think about the problem that the startup is solving, Textla obviously enables small businesses to do text messaging, but there's a key point that you hit on, which is at such a cost that anyone can afford to do it. Because texting's been around for so long. In fact, I
Oh,
actually have a bunch of friends who are in that space. If you can believe it, years ago, I consulted for a company that did text messaging just for self-storage unit owners. So like people who ran self-storage places, that was a thing, but it was really expensive. It was really
yeah.
challenging to set up, and getting started and doing the two-way texting was a lot harder back then. Wasn't as easy to log in and manage your text. I've seen how your guys' platform works. So it's really cool. You guys are solving it, but in a way that makes it even more accessible to the mass market, if you will.
Absolutely. And there's really three cornerstones behind Textla and our go-to-market strategy and our sort of general market position. And credit to our CEO, Luke Brickman, for figuring this out. And those three are: one, we have the best price on the plan. You're going to spend a fraction of what you would spend with anyone else
Yeah.
sending text. Two, we're the easiest to use platform. There is voted number one by G2. We designed it to be like no unnecessary bells and whistles. You can import your contacts and start saying campaigns in literally 10 minutes. And then three, we offer world-class customer support. We actually have humans who answer the phone. You can call us, you can chat us on our website. We're all based in the US. We're not talking to someone in Pakistan or a chat bot.
This is super exciting. I know you guys are growing really fast. I imagine a lot of the founders who are going to be listening to this episode are going to be thinking to themselves the same thing. Hey, we're coming in to disrupt. And that all sounds good. But going from concept to product to actual first customer is a huge jump. So let's go way back into the history of text. Let's go back a little while here. Think about, how did you actually go and find someone who is willing to pay money to a brand new company for a brand new product in the text messaging space?
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell Luke's story here, because Luke's our
Cool.
founder and CEO. He obviously, this was him doing this. So Luke is fascinating. I think his story is very archetypal for a lot of founders and offers some great insights. So Luke was the head of inbound sales at Twilio, which I think people know is one of the leading CPaaS providers in the world. They're massive. And basically what they do is they provide APIs that can be used to send text. A lot of like big companies use them to send out mass text automatically. I think Uber is an example of one, or you've probably received a text sent by a Twilio. But as head of inbound sales, he ran into a problem a lot of sales leaders face, which is half of the leads coming into Twilio were disqualified. They were small business owners. Were not engineers. They didn't have the budget to go and spend the money needed to really use Twilio. So they basically were like SOL when they inbound. So Luke couldn't do anything. I mean, he was stunned at, we have thousands of leads coming in every month that we literally can't serve.
Hmm.
So he did some market exploration. He looked around. He saw that there were a lot of out of the box SMS marketing providers who served these small businesses, but he was stunned at the rates they were charging. And he was stunned at what he saw: the poor customer service, poor customer experience, really janky, not well built platforms. He did what great entrepreneurs do. He found an engineer to help him. He obviously had the sales mind and the market expertise, but he found an engineer to go out and help build the platform. And I believe the very first customer we got was a gentleman who's still a customer and was a political consultant who
Nice.
found Luke. I believe found Luke by, I want to say, Reddit. And it's still a customer saying millions of texts with us a month. But Luke, he's 20, as a 22-year-old, and it's probably a 20-year-old. He did what a classic tech 20-year-old would do. He started going on Reddit and posting about this new platform he was offering and seeing if people wanted to come in and try it out.
Nice.
And that's how we got our first customer.
You are not the first person to tell a story where things started on Reddit. This is actually a fairly common idea of, look, just put it out in the world. Don't be so freaking
Yes.
precious that you got to have everything up and live and perfect and beautiful and branded. Like, just go talk to some people about this.
Exactly did. And tons of feedback early on, like lots of iterations until building the product and what features should come next. And it's funny because it's actually stayed as a consistent channel we're investing time and money in ever since. I got here 9 months ago and our investment, it's only growing. But yeah, Luke, the other thing Luke did was as he was at Twilio, he was actually able to even get referrals from people at Twilio because Twilio couldn't take these customers. So if a sales team member was like, "Hey, I've got a guy who we can't serve," they would send to Luke. So yeah, so very smart, very much guerrilla marketing. We still are partners with Twilio. We're on their marketplace, and yeah, we really have leveraged things like partnerships, lots of social media, Reddit, Quora, things like that, and really a guerrilla way of getting Textla out into the world.
It's great. The partnership piece is really unique because you have a founder who comes from that background at a much larger company, much more, developed, and you would think, "Oh, that's just experience." There's actually inroads into one of probably your most successful partnerships. That's huge. A lot of founders are that way too. I have a good friend who's a founder who used to work at Uber in their data team. He ended up building the
Yep.
product. Imagine that's where they got some of their first revenues from that exact company, right? You start there, but you don't burn that bridge. You go back there and you have those inroads. I think that's great. Well done
Yeah.
to Luke. Hopefully you're listening to this, man. We're cheering you on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a classic founder story, and it's one of those things where it's yeah, you prove it out because you feel the pain and you see the opportunity firsthand, which is what he did as a sales leader with all those unqualified leads he couldn't sell to.
Oh
So,
man, that pains me
classic.
myself as a sales leader. That's hilarious. So this is not your first early stage company, and I think a lot of people listening are going to be interested to hear. Let's go back. Let's step it back. Before Textla, you were at a company called Ubiquitous. How did they start going to market? Like, what was that first dollar for them?
Yeah, and I just speaking generally, it's been funny in my career. Three of the four companies I've worked at, I'm like typically one of the first business team hires, if not the first business team hires. So I've seen this happen at multiple companies. And it's funny how they all have like different origin stories. Ubiquitous was very different than Textla, similar in some ways, but also different. Ubiquitous is an influencer marketing agency. They connect brands with creators on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube to do paid ad placements. You've probably seen many of them at some point where the creator name drops the company. In our case, we service like Lyft and
Yep.
Amazon and Crocs. Those are some of the big companies we had. But it originally started out, the original founder, Alex Lc, was working at a company called Bellhop. He had lots of marketing experience, very sharp marketer, got contracted by I believe a aspiring rapper to help get his songs out in the world. This is that time when TikTok was just starting to blow up.
Nice.
And what TikTok was doing at the time was actually driving a lot of music viralities. LC went out and started pitching creators on, hey, we'll pay you to promote this guy's song. The rapper was terrible, by the way. I don't even know what his name is. But what LC realized that was like, okay, we can take a revenue cut from this, and we should, because that's how he was getting paid. And so he actually ended up deciding to go out and build a whole agency. And so the agency, once they did that, started reaching out to other people he knew who might be interested in marketing on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Brought on a few people. It was a side hustle for its first, I think, year or so.
Yeah.
But eventually they got enough customers to where they could, I think some of their early customers like Lyft, one of the big ones, this is actually a big story for them. Their big initial customer, Lyft, was need a big push for the Grammys. And they basically LC and them were like on a small database where they had influencer market agencies listed.
Yeah.
And these guys came to them in a panic because VaynerMedia, of all people, said they could not turn around the push that was needed in 3 weeks or whatever in time.
I know.
And so LC scrambled like all of his resources and was able to pull it off. And they got a year contract with Lyft. They raised a bunch of venture capital money. And now if you go look them up, they're one of the top influencer marketing agencies. in the
Oh,
country, which
that's
is crazy.
amazing.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
I'd imagine that the speed on the turnaround, since that was the thing that kind of kept Vayner from it, was critical. And at the early stage, you can do some of those unscalable things like giving way too much customer service or being
Yes.
way too fast, like setting the kind of precedent that you don't want to set, but it's not a forever kind of thing.
And those are two common threads between Textla and Ubiquitous. Textla was doing something that other people couldn't do, which was offering texting at a price that no one else could offer. Ubiquitous was offering influencer marketing services at a speed that no one else could offer or would offer. And it's the classic like startups doing things that don't scale, that really aren't long term sustainable, but get you in the door initially and get those first initial customers and that necessary lifeblood revenue for your companies. Yeah, very both. Those are two common threads. I should just put that together right now, but yeah, it's cool that those are like common themes you can see in a lot of startups.
Let's see if it carries through to your third startup, your very first kind of early stage company you were working
And
at,
I don't know, we're
Ambition
going back.
Software Company. We're going back a few years. This is actually where you and I met.
Yep.
Ambition had early customers, just like every company. We got to start somewhere, right? We got to have that initial traction. What did that look like for them? And then we'll see if we can pull that thread all the way through.
Yeah, man, Ambition. That was my OG. That was my initial foray 10 years ago into the startup marketing world. So, when I joined Ambition, they had two customers. Their very first customer was actually a company called Access America, and that was a transportation, a third party logistics company.
Nice.
And how this customer came about, they actually came to Ambition had engineers. They were working on another project. This is a great story. Access America was known for having an elite sort of sales culture. They're very competitive, very like fun, like young 20 somethings, lots of heavy activity on the phones. They had like classic Wolf of Wall Street sort of vibe. And what they did was they would run these epic fantasy sales contests where they would score basically people based on like number of calls made, number of deals closed, amount of revenue closed. And they were using spreadsheets and manually basically creating formulas to like track winners. And the reps loved it. They were like, this was like one of their favorite things they did, but it was very time consuming. And they came to Ambition. They were like, hey, could you guys basically automate this for us? And Ambition pulled two of their engineers, put them on that, and they built a platform that became Ambition.
Wild.
And because there was something else at the time, they were actually focused on another gamification company called Fireplug. And that was B2C, ironically. And then they switched to this B2B play. And long story short, once they built Ambition, Access was like, we'll pay you for this. And they became like 50, they had like hundreds of users and were paying like 50 grand a year for
Amazing.
Ambition. And the Ambition used that to get into Y Combinator. They got into Y Combinator. They got backed by Google Ventures and Redpoint and all those guys. And we got a bunch of press initially. And it led to, after we got out of YC, and that's what led to our initial customers.
That's crazy to think it wasn't after they came out of YC they got their first customers. They were starting with some sort of custom project, taking them outside of the scope of what they're currently working on. This is a very unscalable thing, of course. Hey, there's market demand here, though. We've got to, you probably got
Yes.
some mouths to feed. We got to do something, going to pull in capital. That's awesome. That's a not enormous pivot, but almost like a repositioning of what their strengths were and what they were building. It sounds like.
Yes. And I'll give you the backstory on them because it's fascinating. So Ambition was the third startup founded by the three co-founders who are three friends of mine from college. I followed along their whole story. Their very first company was a company called Reticker. It got actually a decent amount of press. It had a decent amount of users. It was a ticker that you can install on your MacBook that would scroll the bottom of the screen and the ticker on CNN.
Yeah.
And you could put like whatever you want in there. It would show like social media updates or like news. And it had a decent following, but they were selling it for $5 a pop. And so they realized, okay, we're not gonna be able to get like critical mass to make the sale business. So they pivoted. They built an engineering team. They had an engineering team who built this, and then they pivoted with the engineering team to Fireplug was another B2C app that gamified reading. Like you could literally have on your phone and you could read news articles on your phone. It was like Reddit where you can get upvotes and be known as a subject matter expert.
Nice.
Again, though, how do you monetize that?
Yeah.
It's now very not easy to monetize. So they were struggling with that. They had this, I believe they had 13 people or so. on their team, about 7 of whom were engineers. They had all this firepower. And then when Access, who was in the same city as them, tied to their investors, came along with, hey, we really need help with this. It suddenly was like a light bulb went off and I was like, oh, we could actually, this is B2B. These are big contracts. This is something our team can build. They built integrations with like their data sources. So they're pulling the data straight from their transportation management system.
Yep.
They're pulling the data straight from their phone systems. And that's where the secret sauce came in. And the cool thing too for Ambition as a sales gamification company, that sort of initial customer, the way they built the platform became a key differentiator for us over the next 4 years because all the other sales gamification companies were Salesforce only. They only integrated with Salesforce.
Ah,
And so what Ambition could do was we could go after anyone who needed sales activity and performance data from multiple systems. So if you had performance data in Salesforce, but you also had it in a transportation management system, we were your only guy you could use.
nice.
And if you were using spreadsheets or you were using HubSpot, we were the only guy you could use. And all the other sales gamification startups between 2014 and 2018 died, except us. We were the only ones who made it. So it's funny again how like that initial customer pulled Ambition in a way where it actually gave them leverage to really grow and attack the market. We got a lot of our logistics companies because of Access, and that really became a sort of a core vertical for us. Another common thread again, were those early customers and the way you approach them, they can inform the rest of your business and your key differentiators as you scale up.
Yeah, you've given us a window into 3 different startups and their first dollars, and it's fascinating to see the differences and pretty wide differences, including a pivot there from B2C to B2B, and we're gonna know I'm sure there's at least one founder listening right now who's, like, "Ooh, that B2B, that is you're right, the monetization is different, it's easier." Like, somebody's gonna be making a pivot because they thought of it here. But I love that there's a common thread too. That totally makes sense. So, Jeremy, you've done an awesome job talking us through the first dollar at a few different companies, going back a ways, thinking about early days at any of these companies, especially your time at Ambition, knowing that was early in your career. What advice would you maybe give yourself or another founder at that stage who's trying to figure out like how do we go to market? How do we earn that first dollar? How do we get our first customer? What do you know now that you didn't know then?
Man, oh yeah, I love this question because I don't want to say I delayed our growth at Ambition. I won't put that on myself, but I wish I knew now I wish I knew now what I didn't know then. It's all about finding the quickest paths to qualify leads and revenue. Like Ambition originally, we did a lot of content marketing and we didn't spend money. And it's funny because it paid off over 4 years. So we built this flywheel of like organic sort
Yeah.
of recognition and growth. And our like CAC was insanely low. We were profitable within 2.5 years of me joining, which is crazy for a pre-series A seed stage SaaS startup. But Textla, we're profitable right now, 9 months after joining, 8 months after joining. And I think it's because we have identified what you go and you find the sources that give you the quickest access to good leads. And you find the cheapest ways to get them. For us right now, we're hitting Reddit and Core really hard. We're doing like small bets in certain plays. We're not doing a lot of paid ad spend. We didn't do any paid ad spend at Ambition.
Yeah.
Having said that, at Ubiquitous, we found a great paid ad channel that we spent close to 20 grand a month on because the returns were so high. I recommend placing small bets across a bunch of different places and seeing which ones pay off. Try 8 different channels and try outbound email, try outbound cold email, try some small SEO plays, try some affiliate plays, try some partnership plays, try it all. And I think like what you'll see is certain ones pay off and the ones that pay off, you double down on. And then what you want to keep doing too is also just building that sort of basis. Like at Textla, we have a phenomenal website. Luke picked a phenomenal design firm to help us build it, and that website is critical. So I'd say start with number one, make sure your website's as good as it possibly can be and is converting as high rate as it possibly can be. And then two, start making those investments across each of your things. The other third thing I'll say is your messaging is critical. I like Ambition. We got this wrong early. We didn't really know what our messaging was. that in a way that where it like converted people, because our average deal size was like 30K a year. So it was not an insignificant investment. What we did to find out what our right messaging was, we got a bunch of reviews on G2 from customers. And I
Mhm.
remember one day I went through, we had like 50 or 60, and I read through all of those reviews, and certain things kept jumping out at me from the reviews. People were saying the same things. And it was, I love the transparency. I love being able to see what my reps are doing. I love that my reps know what they need to do and they have accountability to do it. So all of our messaging pivoted away from this fun where we're fun, it's fantasy sales, it's gamification,
Yeah.
to transparency and accountability and accelerating revenue growth by having everyone owning their numbers. And that's what resonated. As our customers told us. And with Textla, those three pillars of our messaging, we hear it over and over again from our customers. It's the same, they all say the same things. They love the same three things. They love the ease of use, they love the pricing, and they love the support. And look for those common themes as you get customers about what they love most and why they're buying you. Ask them to even do reviews. I would say reviews are great things because they, one, you can use them, two, they're social proof, and three, they can literally inform the rest of your messaging as you get more of them.
Oh, I love it. We can unpack those for the next 10 years and people get a value out of that because you've spent so much
Yeah,
time learning these lessons. I love it. Let's do a couple rapid fire here to wrap up.
sure.
What's a tool or resource you wish you'd known about maybe when you were starting out? Something that you now turn to or you did for years that you really appreciated, but it took you a while to find it.
In my early days and ambition, I discovered Clearbit, which I think this doesn't have to be Clearbit, but it could be anything that's, if you can figure out how to cold email people or cold outreach to people, it's an unlock for
Yeah.
you. And what you need, those need contacts. Let's say you get the messaging right, what your messaging is, and your target market is. Then you need to find the people to reach out to them and get a hold of them. I found Clearbit early, and I think we paid $100 a month to get like 2,000 leads enriched a month. And I learned so much about who our buyers were. I like first our entire buyer database. We figured out which verticals, what the personas were. And so once I had that, we really were able to narrow our focus. And I knew every time someone inbounded right off the bat, were they qualify or not? I could just look at them and just know. And that was really insanely valuable. I love
Let's
that.
jump to a book maybe that's influenced you or that you recommend for another founder.
One of the early ones I did read that impacted me a ton and really informed a lot of the way we did marketing at Ambition. Another Gary Vaynerchuk make another appearance in this podcast is Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary
Yeah.
Vaynerchuk. And the thesis behind that is so poignant and simple, but it worked. I saw it work. We did it. And it's when you jab, you add value. So add value, ask. So when you do 4 emails to your customers, you add value. Here's how to use the product better. You add value. Here's some new features we just dropped. You add value. Hey, we're going to give you some free credits. Ask. Hey, can you refer us to 5 of your friends? Or can you write a review for us? Or would you like to jump up to a higher pricing tier?
Jeremy, some founders are definitely going to want to follow you. Where do you prefer? LinkedIn, a Twitter and X guy? Where are you at?
I'm all over. Actually, it's my 2 favorites, LinkedIn and Twitter. So yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me. I'm on Twitter at BoudinAJ. And I'm on TikTok too, if you want, aka the body.
Nice.
If you want to, I talk about non-business things on TikTok though. But
Very
yeah,
cool.
definitely check. Would love to chat. And definitely check out Textla if you want business tech to be a part of your tech stack for your startup. We help all kinds of businesses.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show, man. And there you have it, another first dollar in the books. Thanks for tuning in, and a huge thank you to our guests for sharing their story. If you enjoyed this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a fellow founder, leave us a review, or hit us up on LinkedIn. Want more startup insights and strategies? Head over to foundersales.com, where we're helping technical founders turn their innovations into thriving businesses. Until next time, keep hustling for that next dollar.